This video is brought to you today by Legal Rideshare. Whether you've abstained injuries on the job, property damage to your vehicle, wage loss, and even deactivation, Legal Rideshare is here to help. Well, it looks like the Uber surge won't be going very high anytime soon. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to the channel here on December 1st. December 1st. I think I'm forgetting something. I think something normally happens, and I just have this feeling that something's supposed to be happening right about now, but I'm not, I can't remember what it is. Well, I'm sure it will come to me later. So anyway, hey, let's talk about rideshare again for a hot minute, because even though I am clearly moving on from rideshare for the most part, and people have been enjoying the new videos, so thank you very much, but I did want to return to this topic, at least for this, because once in a while there is still a topic in the rideshare industry that interests me, and surge is definitely something that interests me. Now, surge used to be this thing that drivers loved and riders hated. Drivers would get a much better than usual payout, and passengers would pretty much get screwed because they happened to call an Uber at the wrong time. Under old surge, drivers could make those $50 to $100 an hour that you see that one kid from Burbank or San Francisco bragging about all the time, even though he never actually shows his rides. You know, all those videos that he talks about making, you could actually make that under old surge. But then, of course, Uber got more greedy, and they changed the surge so that drivers, there would be an upfront surge. Drivers would get a portion of the surge, and Uber would take most of it. That means that drivers got screwed and passengers got screwed. So, you know, Uber is not prejudiced. They will screw drivers and passengers with impunity. But there are now new laws, because now Uber will not be allowed to charge a higher surge, neither will Ola, in India. According to TechCrunch, India sets rules for commission surge pricing for Uber and Ola. So here's the story. Ride-hailing firms such as Ola and Uber can only draw a fee of up to 20% on ride fares in India. New Delhi said in guidelines on Friday, a new setback for the SoftBank-backed firms already struggling to improve their finances in key overseas markets. See, it's interesting that they say it for already struggling firms to improve their finances. Not drivers, the firms. The guidelines, which for the first time bring modern-age app-based ride-hailing firms under a regulatory framework in the country, also put a cap on the so-called surge pricing, the fare Uber and Ola charge during hours when their services see peak demands. According to the guidelines, Ola and Uber and any other app-operated ride-hailing firm can charge a maximum of 1.5 times of the base fare. They can, however, choose to offer their services at 50% of the base fare as well. So there's still going to be some surge, not what it used to be. The rules also state that drivers will not be permitted to work for more than 12 hours a day, and that the companies need to provide them insurance cover. The working more than 12 hours has not been a thing in America for a while. Heck, I don't think we can even work more than 8 hours here. Uber and Ola have not previously shared precisely how much they charge their drivers for each ride, because it's not in their benefit to, but industry estimates show that a driver partnered with either of these firms makes up to 70% of the ride fare after paying taxes. Well, that is unusually high, because in America, and, well, other English-speaking countries for that matter, that 74% is true typically, but for Uber and Lyft, not for the driver. The new guideline says drivers should get to keep at least 80% of the fares. Well, that's positive, because I can guarantee you if this was not here, this little thing, then basically Uber and Ola would, okay, they'd cap the surge, but then they would take more of it. So the new guideline says the drivers have to keep at least 80% of the fares. Now, this doesn't sound too bad. Like regulation, like, yeah. What were we doing, like, getting rid of Prop 22? Clearly, that was a disaster in the making. The cap on the ride fare and implied insurance costs will raise operating costs in India for Uber and Ola, not the drivers. both of which have eliminated jobs in recent months amid the pandemic to trim costs. The South Asian nation, which has attracted many giant international firms in recent years as they look for their next growth market, in the meantime has entered an unprecedented recession. But not everything about the guidelines will hurt Uber and Ola, both of which had no comment to share on Friday because, they don't know how to Disney spin this one just yet. The rules will enable the companies to offer pooling shared car services on private cars, though there's a daily limit of 4 intracity rides on such cars and 2 weekly intercity rides. Ujjai Chandri, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, an associate partner at Bangalore-based marketing research consultant firm Redseer, said the guidelines by the government will have a mixed impact. Quote, while it is positive in terms of formalizing the sector as well as increasing the consumer trust on aggregators through improved safety regulation, but overall the impact of these guidelines on the ecosystem growth are negative as capped surge and platform fee will ultimately lead to reduced earnings for 5 lakh, which is about 500,000 drivers currently on these platforms, and will also lead to increased prices and higher wait times for the 6 to 8 crore, 6 to 8 million consumers who use it for their mobility and commute needs, he said in a statement. He's not wrong, by the way. These things do tend to affect the drivers on some level, but here's the thing. Uber and Lyft drivers would have been laid off and would have had their hours reduced regardless. It has always happened because whenever Uber and Lyft find a little bit of wiggle room, and Ola probably, they always screw the drivers where they can. If the government didn't force them to do it, they do it on their own at some point. The rules also address a range of other factors surrounding a ride. For instance, under no circumstance can the cancellation fee imposed on the rider or driver be more than 10% of the total fare, and the fee cannot exceed 100 Indian rupees or $1.35. Wow. Also, female passengers looking for a pooled service will have the option to share the cab with only female passengers, the rules says. You would be surprised how many people have an issue with that here. Cab aggregators are also required to establish a control room with round-the-clock operations. Ola and Uber dominate the app-based ride-hailing market in India. Both the companies claim to lead the market, though SoftBank, a common investor, said recently that Ola had a slight lead over Uber in India. So, there you go. In India, no more heavy surge. And, that's just... I think that's fine. I mean, here's the thing. Surge, when it was mostly for the drivers, was great. I love Surge. Surge was the reason I did Uber. I mean, look, some people brag about how they made we made $500 in a week. Yeah, I would sometimes make $500 in a night because I only drove Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and holidays. I did drive during the weekdays someday, and if it was usually during airport hour runs. But if you time the Surge, you could make bank bucks doing this. Not so much anymore. Now, Surge is like $5, maybe $10, and drivers don't seek it out. It's nice, but it's not worth revolving your schedule around. Basically nothing, there's no strategy to this anymore. Maybe the airport run still, not a lot other places. So, since the Surge is no longer helping the drivers, I think, yeah, good riddance. If the government wants to get rid of it, let them get rid of it. Now again, this is India, this is America, but I just thought it was interesting that at least one country is basically saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to let Uber screw the passengers and the drivers anymore. And yeah, some drivers will probably lose their jobs because, Uber and Ola are not going to be making as much money, and they don't want to hire drivers when that's the case. But hey, c'est la vie. But here's the thing. Surge is not the only way Uber actually screws you. Uber screws you when you get into an accident, and that's where my sponsors from Legal Rideshare come in. Now, these guys have a very, very, very important service if you still drive for rideshare. Let's say you get into an accident or a fender bender or something like that. The first that drivers, I should say, usually call is Uber. And they are usually shocked to find out that Uber will not do anything to help them. Trust me, my phone was destroyed by a passenger years ago. Uber wouldn't buy me a new phone. Just a couple $100, they wouldn't do it. But that is why when you get into a fender bender, don't call Uber or Lyft, you call Legal Rideshare. They offer tons of services for drivers. They will help with an injury. They will help with property damage. They will help with wage loss. They may even be able to help for deactivation. But most importantly, if you are in an accident, they will be there to represent you, and you will not have to pay them until they pay you. It's a wonderful service that everyone has, and by the way, you will need these guys even if you have your own insurance. Some people think that if they have their own insurance, they don't need legal representation. You do need legal representation. And some people very foolishly believe that Uber has them covered. They do not. Uber's insurance policy does not help you out. You need people like Legal Rideshare. So go to their website at legalrideshare.com and get their services if you are in an accident or in any other need of legal advice concerning rideshare. But that said, I would like to know what your guys' opinions of this are. Do you think that India is doing the right thing by capping the surge? Do you think it should happen over here? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. But this is bugging me. It seems like I'm forgetting something, but I just can't put my finger on it. Oh well. I mean, whatever it is, I'm sure it wasn't important, and I'm sure I'll think about it later. Take care, everyone.